It's there we go. So Al, the floor is yours. I'm gonna mute myself and everybody else and see you on the other side.
All right, Lynn, thank you very much. And uh, Carrie, I think is possibly listening, but she's not with us tonight. And she's got some other business to take care of. And I know that we've got the vote on Thursday. So I don't want to take up a lot of your time today, but I do want to just hit on a couple of points, and then maybe we can open it up for a discussion or questions or whatever the case might be. First of all, as you know, way back when I did a kind of a line by line analysis on the development agreement for the redevelopment of the Trop site, not the stadium, but the development around it, which is kind of in my bailiwick. So I spent some time on that. My background, as most of you know, is on public-private partnerships. Worked for 4 different cities, primarily negotiating public-private partnerships. Many of them, much like the Trop site, big projects, big money, and thank God, all of them did not look like the Ray's Hines deal at all. They were much better negotiated, if I don't say so myself, and with great outcomes. As most of you know, I am not a fan of this agreement, never have been. Saw so many flaws in it that I couldn't stay quiet on behalf of the economic development community across the country. I think it's a horribly negotiated deal. I don't think it serves the city well at all. And I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to talk about the changes, some of the changes, because it's really not worth taking a lot of time on the changes, because in my opinion, the changes don't mean anything. They're insignificant compared to the bigger issues that are significant, but I will touch on some of them. And then I will just talk briefly about why I believe the 5 sold out council members are still supporting this deal. And there's only one explanation to it, because the deal is so bad and was negotiated so poorly by the mayor that there should be no question of their opposition to the deal. But because they're supporting it, I'm going to let you in on some things when I was there that led me to believe all this time that those 5 would support it, and especially the 3 that were, especially the 4 that were holdovers, kind of knew where they were going all the time because of what happened at the end of the Kreisman administration. So I'll give you some insights on that, and then we'll open it up. On the changes side, on the stadium piece, which I have never focused on, but I just wanted to mention, there were 2 changes that caught my attention to the stadium deal. One was there was a change that said that they would use disadvantaged workers. 15% of the hours on the stadium would be dedicated to disadvantaged workers. So, some people might look at that and say, oh, that's great. I don't, because it's based on a good faith effort. So all the developer has to do is make a good faith effort, and they're off the hook. So they could do 3% and then come in and say, well, we couldn't do 15%. Here's why. And they've got an administration that, basically supports anything they say. So it doesn't mean anything to me, to a guy like me. The other piece, which maybe is in the article, Lynn, that you were talking about, the lead discussion also means nothing to me. They made changes in there, but it's all based on good faith as well. So as long as they say that they tried and they file maybe some documents that say, look, we looked at this and we looked at that, but we couldn't make it happen. Meaningless stuff without requirements and penalties. None of this stuff makes any sense. From my perspective, again, a guy I probably negotiated 200 public-private partnerships in my career, and you just can't leave those things open. And when I was there, the community would have killed us if we did that. They would have been furious with us. But this administration, they give a pass to. On the development side, they also made some changes. The council now has to approve if there's less than 600 affordable housing units on site, on the stadium site. The council now has to approve that as opposed to the mayor approving it under the old agreement. So they did make that change. The same goes for any changes to the community benefits agreement. Apparently, they can add or subtract, or they could add and subtract from that package that's in the agreement if the mayor agreed to it. So now it's not just the mayor, the council has to agree to it as well. In the development, in terms of hiring workers and using local businesses, local workers and local businesses, the agreement now says that they need to focus on the CRA boundary and people within that boundary. Again, to a guy like me, this means nothing. There's no requirement. These are goals, good faith efforts, quote unquote, which means nothing. There's some language in there about some additional meetings, community outreach. I don't say that that's bad, but to an economic development guy, means very little. It's what's in the deal. Open space, wow, what a whopper of a change this was. They went from 10 acres to 12 acres. They added 2 more acres of green space as a requirement. Again, the Midtown deal had close to 25 acres of green space. And in a city like St. Petersburg, shame on this administration for not living up to the legacy of St. Petersburg in terms of parks and green space. After all, that's what made our downtown many, many years ago. And then, I wish I could be more positive, but I mean, there was a daycare requirement of 2,500 square feet, and there's a grocery store requirement of 10,000 square feet. It's just, it amazes me. And the time frame on that, I can't remember exactly, but the time frame is not right away. It's not, I don't even think it's in 10 years. I think it's like 10 or 20 or 30. I mean, those are not required right away. And they are also the delay language, the excusable delay language in the agreement, like it is with everything, is applicable to this as well. So, I mean, the one thing I think about all the time is this dichotomy that in this agreement, and it just shows how the raise just rolled over the city. And I hate to say that because, I'm very proud of being a city employee at one time, and, love most of the people that work for the city. But for the city to separate the requirements of the stadium, which are required right away, right? They're going to build the stadium right away, and they build it over 4 years. And the city has to spend $142 million of infrastructure money right away, in addition to, and Peter, you know this better than I do, but in addition to giving up about $800 million in value for the land. So that's almost $1 billion of giveaways. And they get nothing in return of private development, nothing. But the stadium rolls. The stadium gets done right away within what, 3 years, 4 years, something to that effect. That's how skewed this deal is. And you guys have heard me say that before. Now, this is very interesting. The last one that I'll talk about, because again, I just don't see any of these as important. They're all window dressing. They're all so that they can say they did something because this council member said something about it, or that council member said something about it. So they threw these things in to make it look like they're responding to the community or responding to the council. Now one thing that they did that was interesting to me, and I had to look at it a couple times, is they are now requiring 400,000 square feet of vertical construction by December 31st, 2030. And I said to myself, well, now that's interesting, because we require, that's in addition to the 10 years and the 20-year and the 30-year minimum requirements, I believe. What's interesting about that is that we required Midtown to do exactly 400,000 square feet right away in our agreement with them. They had to do 400,000 square feet of development. And I said, oh, okay. But then I thought about it. The Midtown agreement did not include any stadium at the time. And I'm going to go back on that and explain how the Kreisman administration was dealing with this project and why. All of that is to say that the way the Kreisman administration was doing it was so that we wouldn't get taken to the shed like this deal is. We thought this through. We knew that the Rays would be asking for this deal. We want everything. Give us everything, and then we'll stay. So we wanted to leverage that and make it so that we had strength negotiating by doing an RFP that they could have responded to, but they chose not to. They chose not to. Even though the mayor asked them many times, please respond. And of course, the new mayor comes in, Mayor Welsh, does a new RFP. Why? Because you have to by law. You have to. It's a CRA district. You have to do an RFP. You can't just say to the Rays, okay, we'll do this with you. So we did an RFP that was open to them, completely open to them. They never responded. So we couldn't select them. So we selected another developer who we think would have done a fantastic job. And it also put us in a position to negotiate with the Rays from strength. We wanted the Rays to do a stadium, but we weren't going to give them $1 billion of free land and infrastructure. And we knew that they would ask for that. So to me, the business approach by those three council members in particular, Montanari, Gabbard, and Driscoll, was vacant. They completely surrendered the city's position to the Rays, and then Welsh surrendered at the negotiating table and came back with junk that the council members sold out on a long time ago. Why? Because they hated what we were doing. Because the Rays were meeting with them in secret and telling them all these bad things about Kreisman, right? That you can't do this, you can't do this. you got to give it to the Rays. And they basically sold out. And they sold out that early. It was at the end of the Kreisman administration. So when they went into the new RFP, they had no leverage whatsoever. From my perspective. Now, let me mention a couple other things here. I just want to mention what has not been changed. And Peter, please jump in, or anybody else that wants to jump in on this. I'm just going to list the items that jump out to me on the development side. So anybody else wants to mention this, but there are 8 or 10 items that should have been changed to make this deal somewhat acceptable, but they didn't. First of all, in the early going, Welsh indicated that the city was going to borrow 280 million. And of course, we all know that that's 700 million. That's the infrastructure and the stadium expense. So that was not the truth, right? They tried to make that look lower than it really was. No Home Run did a great job quickly with their talent. They analyzed the true borrowing necessary for that deal. And then No Home Run really pointed out all of the investments that the city has to make that will now be at risk, that may not occur. As I mentioned before, the city is giving away the land value of about 800 million, and they're spending 142 million in infrastructure. So that's 942 million of giveaways. And you know what they get back for that? The only thing that is in the agreement that is a requirement that they will get back, and they even hedge on that because they've got so many outs, but one could say that they get back $50 million in return because they have to buy $50 million worth of land in the first, I think it's the first 12 years. I mean, I couldn't make this stuff up if I was sitting in a class trying to present the worst deal I've ever seen to the students. So they get back 50 million. And it's even worse than that, though. All they have to do is pay for it. They don't even have to develop it. They have to develop 33% of the minimum requirements by year 10. 33% of the minimum requirements in year 10. So how could a public official possibly support such, I'm going to edit my words, such garbage? The only way is they sold out a long time ago. It's the only way. There's no rationality that in my mind can be applied. Okay, and the city is giving away the land, paying the total price for infrastructure, which is a sin that should be paid by the Rays Hines, and paying for all community benefits. Everybody's running around saying, oh, Rays Hines is paying 50 million for community benefits. No, they're not. The city reduced the land by $800 million. So, I mean, do the math. So can you believe that the sold out 5 is allowing that to happen? I just can't. Again, the time that I was there, those 3 council members would have grilled me to death if I came to them with any of this. So you know that they had to sell out to the Rays. And they're doing it for money, for political reasons, for their next election, but not because they want to be advocates of the taxpayer. The city has surrendered all rights to the real estate development, all revenue rights to the real estate development and stadium. All revenue streams go to the developer or to the Rays, including naming rights. Another sin. The city has secured no guarantees on the development. The language on excusable development delays, I've pointed out before, is horrible. It basically lets the Rays Hines get out of any commitments. However, and I've said this before, those same excusable development delays do not exist for the city's 140 million infrastructure giveaway. So the city's got to pay for all of that without any questions. They can't get out no matter what. There is no excusable delays. There's no reasons why they cannot do it. They have to do it. And the developer can just sit back and say, thank you. And then, we'll go in and develop when we think it's right. And then that excusable development delays language is so ridiculous. They can get out of anything at any time. It talks about national trends, and I've never seen anything like it. The whole affordable housing requirements have not been changed and can easily be bought off with flimsy penalties. We've been talking about that a lot. We know that the affordable housing provisions are not backed up with any penalties that are worth talking about. The amount of money is ridiculous. And I'm shocked that Gabbert is supporting that, because she's been talking about affordable housing for quite some time. Local small business participation rates are a meager 10%, as I said before. Can you believe Fig Sanders is letting this happen? Can you believe it? I mean, Fig Sanders would have thrown me out on my ear if I came back with 10% as a goal, not even a requirement. Open space, I talked about. 12 acres is absurd as well and is shameful. Termination provisions that we've talked about many times have stayed the same. So can you just imagine this? So Rays Hines comes in, and let's say they buy, let's say they buy all the land up, every piece of it. And let's say in year 10, they don't meet the 33% requirement for minimum development. And they say, well, too bad, we're bad. The market wasn't good, blah, blah, blah. The sad thing about that is that the termination agreement says that the agreement doesn't get terminated for any land that they've already bought. So they get to hold on to that land and do what they want with that land, and it can't be terminated or taken away or taken back. They own it, they control it, they do what they want. That's how bad this deal is, in my opinion. Okay, and the last thing is, as I said before, the Rays Hines control what they develop, when they develop, and on what parcels they develop. The city surrenders its say over the best development site in the country. Can you believe the sold out 5 are letting this happen? It's just astounding. Okay, now I just want to mention a couple other things, and let me just check the time. Okay, yeah. And then we can open it up. I want to mention a couple of meetings that took place. I guess I got the sun on me here. When I was there, that makes me believe that those 3 council members, again, Montanari, Gabbert, and Driscoll, sold out a long time ago. with their actions because they didn't support the Midtown deal. They didn't know what we were doing. They didn't understand that we were trying to put something in place that was good for the city, driven by the city, and then we could negotiate with the Rays so that the Rays didn't have the type of deal that I just explained. Because we knew the deal that they wanted. This is the deal that they wanted for 25 years from the former mayors that I've talked about or talked to. And it's funny because I'll never forget the press conference when they announced this deal. Mayor Welsh said, yeah, I bet you all those former mayors, are really happy about this deal and, glad that this is moving forward. No, they all think it's terrible and they all think that it was poorly negotiated. That's what they think. And most of them, if not all of them, oppose the deal because they know how bad it is. But I remember a meeting with Mayor Welsh before he took over, and we talked about this project. And I remember Mayor Welsh saying that on the campaign trail, he did not hear of any significant or any support for the Rays while he was campaigning. I remember him saying that. And I remember him saying, that's not going to be his focus. I was there. The second meeting that I want to mention is that I had a meeting with the Rays. This was the most bizarre meeting I think I've ever had, at least in St. Pete. The mayor sent me over to meet with them. This was maybe a couple of weeks out before the responses to our RFP were due. And the Rays said to me at that meeting, in so many words, throw away your RFP, don't take the proposals. We want to do it. Here's where the stadium will be. It's now the same spot that they're talking about. And we would like control of the land. And I said, well, you want control of the land around the stadium? And they said, no, not just around the stadium. We want all of it. I said, do you want the land west of Booker Creek as well? Because we've got developers coming in with proposals. And they said, yes, we want it all. Because we think we need to control it all if we're going to have the stadium there. A couple days later, that's when Mayor Kreisman did his press conference where he blasted the Rays for not responding to the RFP, not having any discussions with us leading up to the conclusion of the RFP, and then putting such an absurd proposal on the table at the last minute. At the same time, or shortly thereafter, is when the Rays went to the council members, had secret meetings with these council members, these three in particular. We knew that they met with them and started lobbying hard for the council members to come on their side and kill the Midtown deal. And it was pretty open because they did a press conference. I mean, this isn't anything that wasn't in the public. They did a press conference with the Chamber of Commerce, who was completely behind them because they get so much money for their organization from the Rays. And they did a press conference basically saying they didn't want to move forward with Midtown and we should just, do a deal with the Rays. And that was way before Mayor Welsh got elected, but Mayor Welsh, obviously they went to Mayor Welsh and convinced him that he could do just about any deal he wanted and they would support it. Because how do you come back with this deal if you don't know as a mayor that you've got your back covered by three important members of the council? And then you know that you've got two others that are probably shortly behind them once they come in. And I say with Fig Sanders, there would have been no way that she would have supported this deal when we were there. There's no way. So, she met with the Rays. The Rays are supporting her in her campaign, and she needs it, right? She's in a tough race, is what I'm told, and probably could very well lose, is what I'm told. So she apparently cut her deal. And then, you had Councilmember Gertis come in, and you've seen his explanations, but none of them, maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe you all can tell me I'm wrong on this. I have never seen anybody dispute the elements that I just talked about, why this deal is so bad. I have never heard anybody address these issues. The mayor has never explained why he's doing what he's doing. And I've never heard the council ask him that. They'll ask him about LEED, and they'll ask him about, Booker Creek. Is it going to look nice? And, they'll ask him some engineering questions, and, what's this going to be? And then what's that going to be? Never once did Mayor Welsh or the council members address these major issues. And all they have to address is why. Why are you doing this? Why did you cave so badly? So I appreciate your time. I thank you for listening to my perspective as an economic developer that's done this for 40 some years and negotiated a lot of public-private partnerships. Some of them are, if they're not world-class, they're close to it. They're at least national class. Some of the things that we did in Durham and in some of the other cities. So I think what concerns me the most is what's going to happen down the road. The positive side on this, and I know everybody's like, oh my God, DeLisle's going to be positive about something. But the positive side is if and only if Rays Hines wants to do it, right? If they want to do an office building, if they want to do a hotel, if they want to make it a really special place and do some development, it's all in their power because the city has given them that say. And nothing is required. But because of St. Pete market, I'm not saying that they won't do it. It's possible that they may do development and make it work. But if I was a betting man, I would say, as I said earlier, that the reason why the Rays don't want to have to do anything
Still
until
a little
year
box
10.
in the refrigerator has some chicken and vegetables in
He's
it.
mute. Thank you.
Dick, it sounds like a good meal. The Rays, they don't have to do anything for 10 years, so they can just sit back and do what they always do, which is wait and see. And pick and choose. And I hate to see the city put in that position. That's what bothers me the most. So Lynn, I will now open it up to any questions, comments, thoughts.
Awesome. I asked everybody to unmute, which is why we had a little disturbance there. Everybody's gone back on, but you have the power now to unmute yourself or mute as required. And we have a question from Tom about talking, if you would talk about the appraisal, somebody, either you, Al, or Peter.
I think I'll defer to Peter on that. He knows it better than I do.
Okay, the appraisals are a science, and the best appraisal that I have seen that is identified was appraisal done for the city of the former police station. And the police station was torn down and turned into a developable lot. It's 2.12 acres, I think it is, and the city appraisal came in at $29 million or $14 million per acre. So that's the number, and that in turn was based on 5 other properties up and down Central Avenue, basically. So that's where the $14 million that I have been using as an appraisal number come from. Now, as far as the acreage, it's a little bit complicated. I'm a licensed land surveyor. I've done a lot of development works, and it works out so that there's 65 developable acres. That is after the roads, the existing roads and the new roads are taken out, after the 12 acres of green space is taken out, after Booker Creek is taken out, after all that stuff is taken out, the actual physical land on which you can build is 65 acres. So you multiply 65 acres times $14 million an acre, and you come up with $910 million is the current value of the land. Now, what the deal is that Grace Hines has is that they are locked into not this $910 million an acre, but they're locked into this $105 million total property spread over 30 years. So this is like offering to sell your house today to someone who may or may not buy it 30 years out, and you're going to sell it to them at the price. You're going to sell them at today's price 30 years out. It's crazy, complete craziness. Terrible deal. Alan's explained a lot of the I got somebody on iPhone. Did I explain that okay? Is that everybody happy with the appraisal and where the appraisal number came from?
Yeah, Peter, I have a note here from Robin. The county TIF contribution was about 60 million. Now the number is 105 million. Also, did the city issue new financial charts in June? She doesn't see them in the CAL package. And that may not be answerable, but
Okay, I don't know how to answer that question. I don't really understand the question, but the county was supposedly contributing $312.5 million towards the stadium. And that money was going to come out of TIF. So they currently have a TIF balance of about $67 million. So they'll simply turn over that $67 million, and then they won't have to borrow that as part of their $300 million. And they also have some other sources of TIF money. So they think they're going to borrow less than, they think that the actual bond that the city or the county is going to go out for will be less than $312 million. Robin, I don't know if that answered your question or what.
Yeah, thanks. I'm just, in the original package, there was a chart which was showing debt service and what the source of the debt service was. And there was a column for county TIF that added up to about 60 million. There was a column for city TIF, and then the total was the 740 million, something like that. And that's what now I'm reading something about the county's contribution, not bed tax, but TIF, it's 105. So I'm just trying to sort that out and understand what happened, if anybody knows.
Yeah, I actually have that chart up on my screen right now. I could share it with everybody, but it is a complex chart. And I think.
And my other question is, were those charts updated in the June package? Because I can't find them in the June COW package. So
I did see an update, and the update that they did was primarily lower the interest rate on that was going to be paid on the bonds.
Okay, so there's a new debt service chart, basically. I just couldn't find it.
Yeah, I think it turns out to be $690 million rather than the $705 million that was on the first chart.
Okay. Thanks.
Can I ask a question back on the appraisal? I'm just wondering, I'm totally for it. But do we have is there any way to get anybody, to get a council person to say, I'm not voting for this without a new appraisal? Or anybody to say anything like that? We all agree it's terrible. How do we get the city to do it?
Well, I think it's, Dick, I think it's a lawsuit. I think, I think the vote's gonna be done soon. I think if they vote for it, and it does look like they're gonna vote for it, they will vote it based on a improper appraisal, as far as I'm concerned, and that you would, charge them with a derelict of, what would you call it? Alan, maybe you can help me out here.
Duties off, oath. They're not following their oath to the city.
Yeah, lack of financial, whatever, you know.
So you have to wait for lawsuit. Nobody sees a council person that we could get to say, I will not vote for this without a new appraisal.
Yeah. No, I met with Gertis, and I had a phone conversation with Floyd, with Henwicks, and I met with Sanders. Sanders is all about the Woodson Museum. That's it in a nutshell. I know her son.
Okay, I wouldn't expect her.
Yeah,
How about Lisette or Richie would be my candidates?
Oh, for sure. He, and he even said to me that he could have been talked into the deal if it wasn't for the outrageous amount that the city had to come up with. He was definitely on board with that. Gertis was talking out of both sides of his mouth, and it's all about baseball for him, and he's not going to roll over for anybody. I tried to talk with Gabbard because she's a realtor. She made it all the way up to the state level with her politics. And again, just based on the level of contract, the fact that it's basically an option contract agreement with no money up front, I was appalled that she would, based on her background and the ethics that is supposed to go with her background, let that pass. So I was not able to find her. I even stopped at her house personally to see if I could, catch her there, and she wasn't there. So as far as the appraisal, definitely, but I also think we should seriously consider, and I know Brad is on board with this, with dealing with ethical charges to the state. I think there's a lot of valid causes for that. I've been asking for a long time, is there any other legal or judicial process that we could employ to stop or overturn this? And this is not considering the SPLC's potential lawsuit should this go affirmatively.
I'm anxious to find out how to stop this, and one of the ways to stop them is legal. A question on, I don't see the SPLC, or do people see them putting in a lawsuit, or do we need some citizens to sue and they will support them? Does anybody know how that works?
I can answer that because I've talked to them.
Please.
They have plaintiffs. They don't need us to be plaintiffs.
Okay, so they're set to roll if
Yes, and they're representing Faith in Florida and another group, which I can't recall their name. So no, they have plaintiffs.
Is their process and those plaintiffs very strong in their positions? Do we know that?
I don't know the answer to that. I presume they are. They wouldn't have filed that letter, but I don't.
And just one more thing on that, I would certainly say that if we have other avenues with other parties to go forward with additional suits, I would say do it. The more the better, and let it just become, a major production.
My experience with other cities.
Cost. Go ahead, Dick.
With other cities, my son-in-law's in this business, big lawsuits like that. They usually they usually help two citizens do this. Or not, it's a couple citizens that do it. I don't know anything past that, particularly what it costs, but I don't think it probably costs you much to put in a lawsuit. I think it costs you an awful lot to run one.
Is there anything government-wise that we could employ a process? Particularly all these council people take oaths that they have to serve. And I was trying to find a copy of that oath so I can, look at the details of the verbiage. But if there was any way that we could bring in the state on whatever, in whatever department, that certainly would put, how do I put this? Just put the cost at either, put it all on the state's back to bear the burden of pursuing charges on whatever level. Again, food for thought at this point.
Mary,
There's one other food for thought on lawsuits is it appears to me, and I don't get much traction on this, I'd love to find some way to do it, is that the in-town CRA is spending $30 million in the in-town West CRA to quote, raising TIF money that comes from the in-town CRA, and they're spending it about $30 to $50 million of it on the not in their CRA. I think that's highly suspect, if not, it's simply illegal.
For maybe fraud and embezzlement, just depending on the
It-
terminology.
It says in the CRA documents and the table 2 that this money is used only in the in-town CRA, west of 18th Street, that 18th or west of 16th Street.
16.
That's the in-town West CRA. I don't see, and Alan, I wonder if you had an opinion. I don't see how one CRA can spend money in another, blight in another CRA, and of course it's not blight. That's another issue to raise. But I think,
Yeah, Dick, you're right. I mean, there's no way you could spend money from one CRA anywhere other than within the CRA that the money is generated. Now, I thought that the Trop site is in the in-town CRA.
it is. However, west of 18th Street is in town west. That's gas plant phases A and D. A is probably 10 million of 40 because it's the stadium and the parking lot. And then D is mostly residents and hotels, and it is west of 18th Street. And please help me get somebody to believe that that's not possible. What's the plan to finance those? Because nothing is in the in-town West CRA about any of this, not one word.
But that is what you're talking about is in the Trop site.
It's in the gas plant site, not the stadium, the gas plant. It's
right.
phase D. Right? Phase A and phase B are mostly in-town CRA, except in phase A, the parking garage and the low-income housing is in C, I think. It's in in-town west.
And if you looked at the map of the infrastructure,
yeah, those charts are very clear in the presentations and in the agreements.
Right, right.
Just
those are so it overlays the Trop development, right, or the gas plant stadium development overlaps 2 CRAs, in town and in town west. And there is no cooperative agreement between those two. There's no inter-agreement. There's nothing in the in-town west that says anything about it. And 30 or 40 million is going there, right? I'm going to try one more time to get a council person to say, isn't this illegal? But if you could help me, I'd sure love it. And I'd be happy to send you all the letter I've sent out. Because I'm looking for something that would stop this, right? Yeah. Well, I think that should definitely be looked into, and Lisette or somebody should raise that. That's a new one for me. I never put that together. Let me mention one other thing too, and I mentioned it in my last communication to council and to all of you. When I was there, every time we did a deal, we had to produce a document that showed that the incentives that we were giving were less than the return that we were receiving on the project. And we had to do the math. And include it in the council package. And my attorney, when I was there, told me I had to do that on every agreement because it was required by the state.
So then is that a vulnerable place then if they did not follow the same procedure and it's still state requirement?
And I raise it, because I'm unsure. Somebody would have to check that out. I just did what my attorney told me, and every deal that we did, the return was greater than the incentive, so it was never a problem. But I just wanted to mention that because I think somebody should look into that as well. And I did mention it in my last document, and I did send it to council.
Where would we look into that? I know Lisette, my phone conversation with her, my God, she was so passionate. And she was downright very frustrated, almost borderline angry at the way the things have developed. I don't know if she would have any knowledge of that, or do we have to go to a different source for that information?
And what is that document called, Alan?
I don't know what it's called. I just know that I had to do the math every time that we did a deal. And I was told that, that's because you had to prove that you were getting something more substantial than what you were giving. At least that was my recollection. Now, I don't know if it was state. I think it was state, or, maybe it was city charter. I'm not sure. But I do agree that maybe Lisette is maybe the best council member to approach with that and have her look into it, because she could call the legal folks and see what they say.
Okay, that's cool.
May I interrupt to show you that if I can share it? I have the chart right here on the CRAs. Would anybody like to see it?
Sure.
Absolutely.
Can you see that?
There it is. Okay.
That share, right? The
Yep.
in-town CRA ends right here. This is phase A, phase B, phase C, and phase D. Right? This is in the Midtown, in-town West CRA. Right? All of this phase and a good little piece of A, right? The other question I would have here, I've always had it, is that this is a $40 million infrastructure in phase A, right?
Mhm.
Look how much of it is going to put the infrastructure for the stadium, right? I think
Mhm.
that ought to be in the stadium budget. This phase A is $40 million, right? Probably 30 of it here, 35 of it here, and 5 of it over here. And probably 20 million or so should be with the stadium, right? I believe they stuck it there because this is legal infrastructure for the gas plant, right? So when they need to, they include the stadium and the gas plant for the infrastructure, because I believe the infrastructure standalone for the stadium would have to be paid by the race or be paid by public, other than TIF funds. But you can see here that this is clearly another CRA, and I've read that CRA, and it has no mention of having any money for redevelopment of Tropicana Field. That's all over here. These taxpayers are paying for that. These taxpayers would benefit.
It's interesting, Dick. Now, let me think like an insider for a second. What was also always disingenuous about the deal is, you'll recall that they always had the city putting in 130 million for the infrastructure, and they had the developer listed as putting in 53 million,
Mhm.
right?
very much water under the bridge. And I think I'm actually a pretty good advocate for sort of making the
So here's my point. My point is that if the developer has to pay for any infrastructure above the 130 million, which I think is very questionable. But if they do, they've included in the deal a provision that says that the taxpayers of this district will be charged a special assessment, and that will be counted as the developer's contribution.
That's correct. There's another thing you can add to that problem, and that is that there's language in the interlocal agreement that says that if available from other funds in the CRA, left over from whatever we got, that can go to defray the developer's cost of infrastructure, right? So they have an absolute open trap door with money coming in. The 75 million that's sitting there that's already approved that really isn't directed anywhere. I suspect that will take the raised part of it. In addition to what you say, if they need more money, they'll just do an assessment on the tenants here to get it, right?
And Dick, so here's my concluding thought on that. What they might then do is use that special assessment money to do this piece, the piece of the West CRA, so that they keep it separate from.
Yeah. But please help me get somebody to ask the question so they at least have to answer it. Nobody's asked, right? The other thing that's floating around here that nobody answers, we got 130 million in the interlocal agreement, and it's 142 worth of million of infrastructure. The 12 million that the city is going to fund is nowhere. So somebody could just ask the question, how is the 12 million for the lift station going to be handled? The answer may be that the utility is going to handle that all on their own because they will get fees for what they lift. But nobody's asked and nobody's answered.
And Dick, I could be wrong about this, but I always assumed that the 12 million was getting rolled into their bond initiative.
It's not. It's
Oh, it's
130.
not? Okay.
130 plus 60 million of debt coverage.
Okay.
The bond issue is for 130, not 142. The charts all
Okay.
say 142, right? It says 130, 130, 130, 130.
Okay.
My point is to try to get people to say, that's a showstopper. Right? Well, it's certainly a showstopper until you fix it.
Right.
Hey, Lynn, can I share something, my screen for a minute with Dick?
Yeah, please do. Dick will undo his, and you have permission. You don't need me.
Oh, okay. So I just want to show you something I found. Can you see this, Dick? This is on the county's commissioner's agenda. This is a notice that the city sent them about this changes to the TIF. But here they talk only about in-town community redevelopment area, not.
That's correct. That's correct.
Nothing. Okay, and they're asking the county's going to vote on this. They're asking the county, or they're telling the county that they're going to increase expenditure for the stadium project and historic gas plant infrastructure. But there's nothing in there about in-town west.
That's my, you've just made my point. Thank you. There's a bunch of work going on here in Midtown West with in-town CRA TIF money that is specifically identified in the table 2 of the agreement.
So are we sure that the in-town community redevelopment area CRA doesn't include in-town west, that this is distinct?
Absolutely. There's a separate CRA and there's a separate strategy plan and TIF. And their TIF does not mention anything about infrastructure for the gas plant stadium.
Okay, so this.
But you just saw on my map that they're planning.
Right. That's what maybe, I just saw this today and it triggered that.
Great,
They're
good
not-
for you. And that's a nice backup here.
But the county's not voting on this. They're just being notified, but they've apparently been notified of the wrong thing. Is what you're saying.
Is there
I'm just saying
any,
that nobody has any provision for the TIF money that's budgeted to be spent on infrastructure and in town west, because it is the feeling of this reviewer, me, that it would not be legal for CRA in town money to be spent in CRA in town west.
So maybe we don't say anything about this and just let them act. I mean, when's the city's gonna vote on this on the 18th, it says.
Thursday?
Yeah.
Well, they're going to formally vote on it. Let's put it that way. I mean, it's
Right.
the vote, their vote, as Alan has said, is already in.
Right. Right. But it's interesting because then afterwards we can say,
You can sue them, I think. I think this is a pretty good little suit.
well, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I would think only if they start spending money illegally. But I don't know. I'll bring this
Well-
up to Southern Poverty. I'll let them know about this because they're looking at every opportunity here. So
Please do, because I've tried to get to them and I haven't, and I would
I
appreciate
know.
Robin
it's
and
hard.
Lynn, if you could bring this up to them as a possible stopper.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will. I'm not
Well,
saying
maybe
no,
they-
All
Maybe
the
they get a
ethical-
different or a more aggressive plaintiff.
Well, or added to their suit between all the
Sure.
ethical violations, the not serving truly the people of the city, the closed door meetings that have, with the buyer and so forth. Absolutely.
Okay,
You know,
I'll
like,
send this to them.
I once had a lawsuit way back when I was young, and I used the EEOC, the Equal Opportunity Commission, to sue an employer for discrimination. And one thing they taught me, they said, Mary, you throw the mud at everybody. You sue everybody and you include everything that you can. What will stick after that. So I would be
Mhm.
all for definitely seeing if they would help us move some of these other issues along as well.
I have a question around this lawsuit issue. It seems to me that in one of our previous conversations, or maybe more than one of them, that the reading of this document, the DA, that even if you do sue, whatever they've begun continues, period. Am I remember that correctly? In other words, we can't stop them. We can stop them from doing new stuff, but until the suits get filed, and they've already started on their garages, right? They've already begun the process on several different levels here. And so even if we go through this, do we have the opportunity to really significantly, I mean, we can delay them, but can we stop it? And can we make it any better if we do?
Lynn, I would have to defer to a lawyer on that one.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. You could be right.
I hate to keep bringing things up, but has anybody tried to push there's a item that was going forward saying that the council needs their own independent legal review of these documents. They're a legal mess. They're legally improper. They're just wrong.
Well,
that-
Lizette wrote that op-ed. Did you see that?
Yeah, what we need is somebody who's willing to make a motion a council person that's willing to make a motion in council.
Well,
But don't you think that, I mean, it's a 5-3, so
yeah,
any
exactly.
motions by
It's
any
just gonna go that way, yeah.
are gonna get shot down.
I mean, I think Lizette's op-ed was pretty clear and compelling.
City administration
paying
has spent
attention.
$1.5 million reviewing this with that Chicago firm. I think the council would be afraid of spending another $1.5 million repeating that review. I'm not sure that would go anywhere.
I know that,
It's
but
justified.
when you're looking at billions in expense, $1 million is a nickel. But we agree with that. They don't. I think, I'm afraid Alan is right. Is anybody we could get to make a motion, it's gonna lose 3-5.
Right.
Well, we don't know. We'll know Thursday, but
Yeah.
I am not aware of anyone who's switched their mind.
It
Yeah.
just, I can't speak at council meetings because I'm away and I'm not a citizen anymore of St. Pete, but it would be really great to have somebody make a public comment about we've had, where's the action on having an appraisal? We're the seller and we have no appraisal.
That's in my plan for sure. I plan to do that.
Terrific. Thank you, Lynn.
And I'm sure others will perhaps do the same, but that's my focus.
You know, at this point, I mean, my stance on speaking, I tried, most everybody left the last meeting of last week, and I chose to come from a higher road statement to the council people to see if I can jar their conscience and their hearts. And this time around, I have no problem with calling out each and every member that I spoke to that, you know, has been talking out of both sides of their mouth and put them on public display, because at this point, short of cajoling anybody, they're so blinded by their personal interests in whatever that happens to be, that I just don't see them moving for any of us at this point.
Mary, you know, I've tried to get to the council in 3 minutes. Your 3 minute time limit is very, very short. You cannot
Sure.
believe how short it is till you get up there. You
It
don't
is.
really get a chance to say. You could not interact with 8 council people in 3 minutes.
Peter, you learn to talk real fast and be bullet point about it. So yes, no, I know what you mean. The very first time I talked last year in front of council, I was like, huh? I didn't even get halfway through what I wanted to say. So I'm definitely with you there.
I
Can
do
I ask
wanna-
a question out of interest, out of ignorance? And that is, I know there's a half hour before, during the beginning of the meeting. Is there also time at the end of the meeting? I had to leave before
Yes.
9 o'clock last time. And
Yes, there is.
but most everybody had left, I assume. And one of the things
Correct.
we could do as a group is encourage people to come a little late and because there's unlimited time at the end. We could have 100 speakers there, couldn't we?
No, I
Well,
believe they say 30 minutes in the front and 30 minutes in the backside.
But the last meeting, I bet 30 minutes wasn't used in the back, was it?
That's correct.
And
Because
we
most
can, we
everybody
really need to,
leaves.
we
Yeah.
need to fill it, we need to fill it up in the back as well as the front.
And isn't there a meeting on Tuesday? Am I right about that?
Yes, there's a cow on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's all
Yeah,
day. It
tomorrow.
starts at 9 o'clock and it'll be televised. That's how I'm planning on seeing it.
I think it's actually 2 days. I think it's Tuesday
Today?
and runs over to Wednesday morning or something. I
Oh,
think one
really?
is a stadium. I looked up. One is a stadium and one is the deal.
Good
The
to know.
Is there, are there any speakers on Tuesday? If it's a cow, there's no
No,
speaker.
They're
cow is
cows.
strictly the committee only.
So
We,
Tuesday's cow and no speakers. Thursday, there's speakers. Is that right? Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Yes.
believe that's right.
The other thing I just want to mention is the county commissioners have a little bit different policy that if you have a group of 5 people, they can give their time to one speaker, and I think
No.
they can have 10 minutes.
I will tell you, I did ask that question of Lisette when I was speaking with her, because I had the same idea. And she said, no, you cannot.
Yes, why? The county commissioners told me you can.
Wow, well, then we need to find that
That's
in
their
writing
policy.
somewhere.
No, it's on their website, actually.
Then
Yeah.
we need to definitely confirm that then.
Yeah, I checked. The next meeting to testify would be July 30th, I think, at the county.
If we can show up at Thursday at 11 a.m., we should be able to get several people on open forum. And then when they have a public hearing on the stadium, you can fill out a yellow card and speak again. You just can't speak on the same topic. You would have to, for
Right.
open forum, you would have to talk about other needs that are not being met by the city. You have to find some way to talk twice. If you talk about the stadium, they won't let you talk in the public hearing.
But when the item comes up, there's unlimited number of speakers. Is that right, Tom?
That's what I think.
I think so too. And there's 30 minutes at the end. what's the plan and what's the opportunity to get, since we're losing with the council, let's move to the commissioners. How do we get them to say no?
I've been writing them regularly. I sent them a bunch of stuff today. I got the response only from Dave Eggers, assistant Stacy, who actually wrote me a lovely email, and I wrote her another one back, and I'm going to write him again tomorrow, and I'm going to send him the link to tonight. I'm going to send them all the link to tonight once Peter gets it rendered.
I think we should take advantage of this. I think it's 10 minutes or whatever it is, and put together, you even can send them a PowerPoint ahead of time and they'll show it while you're speaking. I think we should put that together. And for July, I think it's July 30th, I'm pretty sure. Unless
They can ask for an appraisal, for instance. They could
ask for
say-
anything they want. Yeah,
They could say you can't do that with the CRA money.
right.
It might be a whole new ballgame.
I mean, I understand they have to approve. There's in the package, there's this agreement between the city and the county, right, Alan? I started reading it. So
Yes.
there is an agreement, a draft agreement in the COW package. So you can see what they're gonna approve, and it covers pretty much everything. So I would say they could ask for changes.
They have to prove all the same conditions that the city does, do they not?
I'm not sure it's all.
No, I mean, they have, they have such a cleaner deal, and a simpler deal. Let me just mention this, Dick, like with the real estate, because it's a good question, and you made me think it through a little bit. My initial reaction is, they have nothing to do with the real estate, even though it's in a CRA. It's owned by the city, and either the city loses that money or they make that money, but the county doesn't get anything because that doesn't go into the CRA. So I think here's my take on it. The county said, hey, we'll put in the tax, the tourism tax money, and the rest of this deal is up to you, city. And the city bellied up and did what they did. And the county said, well, if you're going to do that, that's up to you.
But Alan, I thought some of that CRA money does belong to the county. You're saying none of it belongs to the county ever.
Well, the proceeds from the real estate, even though it's in a CRA, does not go into the CRA pot. It goes directly to the city.
Oh, okay.
See what I'm saying? I know it's confusing, but now, and any projects that happen in a CRA, the county doesn't have anything to do with them other than the agreement that you spoke of, the upfront agreement where they're willing to put money into the deal, into that pot, into the CRA pot. And then it's up to the city to comply with the provisions in the agreement.
Okay.
The county does not sign off on the gas plant redevelopment agreement. I'm
No,
gonna go look at the signature page.
no, I don't think that they have anything to do with the individual projects as long as they are in compliance with that master agreement that Robin mentioned earlier. Now,
That the city's telling them they're going to increase from 232 to 574 million.
Yes, then they have to agree. They have to agree to that, which is what will be before them. And another example would be the 10 million additional dollars that they put into the inner harbor, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. Not the inner harbor project, but the project down by the water that the city recently did.
So
Here?
The
The
pier,
pier.
oh my God, yeah, thank you, guys. I just had a senior
It's
moment.
almost time now. 7:50.
Yeah, the pier, we asked for an additional $10 million from the county for that project. And so they had to approve the additional dollars, but not the project itself.
Okay, okay, so but right now, they're not telling the county the whole story. I guess they're telling them it's only gonna affect the in-town redevelopment plan. They say west of 8th Street.
Right.
That's correct. Now,
So,
but it would not be much of a concern to the county that the city was planning illegally to spend money west of 18th Street. That's the city's problem when they come up to the point and they say, oh, gee, we guess we can't spend there. What are we going to do? So the county won't care about that much. City should.
Right, as long as the city is not outside of the agreement, if they're within the agreement itself, then the county doesn't care, correct?
so then if these items were brought to the county's attention, what possibly would be the ramifications or the response from the county?
Well, the only concern I've heard from people is about using this money when there's uncertainty about the beach situation. And other than that, I don't know. That's the only argument I think that sort of resonates. And also, the fact that the Victor Advisor study that the county had done to show that this was a good return on tourist dollars investment was completely flawed, and said that it was only a good deal if the stadium was full and they had 80 extra non-baseball events a year. And the Florida Tax Watch report said, well, okay, then that should be guaranteed in a clawback provision, which there isn't one.
That's a good point.
So that's the tie-in, is that this idea that this is a tourist boom is very flawed according to Florida Tax Watch, which is an independent study. And I think that's our best argument, our only argument.
I'm looking at I'm not conversant with this. The interlocal agreement is between the city and the county. And that's an agreement that's probably not getting much attention, but it says it is tax increment funding contributions in the CRAs. The first paragraph talking about TIFs and CRAs. So and the county is involved because the county is very smart. They're out of this in 2032.
Right.
And I'm sorry, I'm not conversant enough with this to say, but I think when we go talking to the county is signing this interlocal agreement, and the interlocal agreement has to be signed for the rest of the agreements to work. So I think it's worth a look as we head toward the county to see if we can get them to say, stop this thing. That's the one place I've seen them involved a lot here.
Yeah, and the county is not putting any, the TIF is not being extended for the county. It's just being extended for the city.
But they're using it up to 2032, Alan.
Well, that was
It's already approved.
That was already approved. That was extended for the pier. That's exactly what was done for the pier project, and to get the extra 10 million from the county into the pier project. But the county made it clear that they weren't going to put any more money into that TIF. And
let me give you just a chance we can find a crack or an open door here. In the interlocal agreement, all the data, all the money is on table 2. That has the projects, it has the locations, it has the CRA, and it has west of 8th and west of 18th Street. And that is very much mentioned and signed up for in the interlocal agreement that the city and the county both signed. So there may be some pay dirt in there.
And Dick, I mean, the other question, fundamental question would be, is the city using any of this CRA money for the infrastructure? They may not be.
Oh, that just that's where I saw the 130 million. And the stadium amount is another 212 for stadium is in table 2 of the interlocal agreement. That's TIF money.
Okay.
And I believe the only TIF involved is in-town CRA.
Yeah, and I
But
haven't taken.
I don't understand
the.
there's some intricacies between the monies. All this money starts out in the county because the county collects it, right? And then the county, I think, contributes to some of this. And I don't, not quite clear on that because the city gets some money, the county gets other tax money, then both of them contribute to TIFs. They may be different TIFs, I don't know. But the agreement that's talked about in the summary of agreements is that interlocal agreement is between the city and the county. I'm
Yeah.
going to take another look at it and I'll advise if this looks like some pay dirt, but that's where the TIF money is put, and that's where the TIF money is approved.
So you're saying that the TIF money is going both into the stadium and into infrastructure?
Yes, I'm going to see if I can. Yeah, that's in table 2. 212 million into the stadium. And I'd like to know how they can build $212 million worth of infrastructure. You start to go vertical sometime. See if I can.
Well, the infrastructure is mainly there anyway, so it's not like you're breaking virgin ground to put in infrastructure.
What do you mean? You're taking out the parking lots and putting in a stadium and roads. There's no roads there now. There's no stadium there now.
Oh, so they're relocating a different location.
I'm looking, I can see if I could probably share this. I've got it up. I'm into the interlocal and I've got, let's see, we got Pier Project. We don't care about Mahaffey Theater. We've got redevelopment infrastructure, 75 million. That's already booked. Stadium project, 212.5. Historic gas plant, 130. That's how I know the 12 for the lift station's not in here because it's not in table 2.
Gotcha.
You want me to, I don't see anything to share it here anymore. I don't know where I lost that.
Well, and it just further confirms for me that the whole focus is really on the stadium. That's where they're going to spend that 130 million, most of it in and around the stadium.
No, there's 212 million for the stadium, 130 for the historic gas plant. Part of the 130 gas plant covers the infrastructure for the stadium, so it's over and above the 212. But this says 212 million worth of TIF money, IRP district, IRP, that's in town, west of 8th Street. And it doesn't go past 18th. New stadium, including all improvements associated, 2 parking garages, on-site parking, open space, public art, brownfields. One of those parking garages is in the wrong CRA. The column says IRP, that's in-town redevelopment plan. Right?
Now,
One of the parking garages is in town west.
Dick, are you reading that from the last submission to council?
I'm looking at this is the 5.9 cow, but I don't think I can check it. I don't think it's changed. It was hard enough to find this.
Yeah.
And then in the 130 for the gas plant, it says roadway, sidewalk improvement and new construction, and streetlights, structures, Booker Creek, drainage, sanitary, suitable, potable water. That's all your utilities, including the utilities for the stadium. And demolition of the existing structure,
Yep,
Tropicana. It's all in that 130 million. Right?
yep.
And I think so. And this is in table 2, which is a city county document, right? I can tell you they both sign it. I don't know what their roles, I'm not clear on what the roles of the city and the county are in the document itself, but they both sign it. So they can either, and this goes nowhere if they don't sign it. That would probably, it may be a long shot on a showstopper, a game stopper, but if for some reason the county got their dander up about these provisions, they could not sign this thing and this deal does not go forward. This is an agreement that one of the 12 agreements is necessary. So I will look at it a little more and I can report on that. And, but I'd also like somebody with better legal training than me, but I think what we do is we wind up with, it is really great to think about going to the county with an organized PowerPoint presentation from this group.
I think that's a swell idea. And Peter and whoever else is here, Ron, I guess, is here somewhere. Is this something that Bill Ballard could help us with? Is this his area of expertise?
I don't know. It is correct that if the county were not to allow its portion of the CRA funds to go in, it would cause a change in the refinancing of this deal, and could potentially even kill it. The CRAs, the county CRA lasts till 2034. The cities is going to go to 2044. And then after that, the city has still got to pay on the bonds. And the city is at that point taking it out of general funds, not out of tax funds, but out of general funds. So if the county were to refuse to allow any of its portion of the CRA to go towards this stadium, then the money would have to come from other places, but it still could be done.
That's great, Peter. But what I would want to do is I would like to find ways to get the county to say, we're not ready to sign this interlocal agreement until the following things are done. Right? That we don't have that opportunity with the city council anymore, but we may have that opportunity with the county commissioners. And it's not whether they put up their money or not put up their money, but they can say, we're not signing this agreement. Just being porky.
Yes, they could do that, Dick, and that is an approach, and it would take some effort for someone to put together a document that, and then sell it to the council people as the reason for not approving this, and that would in turn affect the finances of the deal, but not necessarily kill it.
But you could ask, but they could also get. You could have the county ask the questions of the development team and the negotiating team to get answers to some of these before they sign. I'm not saying that they totally turn the table upside down, but they have bargaining power here to ask for things like an appraisal, tell us straight and figure out what's going to happen with the CRA money.
Well, I think to answer your question, Dick, if I were on the county commissioners, if I was a county commissioner, that is the kind of question that I would raise in an attempt to slow this thing down. But I'm not on the county commissioner. I'm not a county commissioner. And to get some county commissioner to do that, and to get the majority of the county commissioners to do that, is a stretch.
Yeah, and
It's
you,
seven.
you
Sorry,
can
go ahead.
bet, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Al, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you can bet that the two legal departments have been talking for several years about this very thing. There's no question in my mind about that.
Okay, well, Tom, I just want to acknowledge Tom just put up a question. Tom Tito says, does future use of general revenue require a referendum? Which that's a fair question, actually. I was
General
wondering-
revenue does not require a referendum. Any money that comes from real estate property taxes does require a citywide referendum. And the thing that is so upsetting to me is that the TIF money, the CRA TIF money, is in fact property tax money, but is paid into the city as property tax money, and then is taken out of the city and paid just like you were paying a contractor. So at that point, it has been magically changed from property tax money into general revenues, and then they can spend it on whatever they want. And this is why the vote that was last a few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and the vote that's coming up to extend the CRA is so critical, because what it does is it gives them a piggy bank that they don't have to respond to the voters for. Otherwise, this would require a vote. This whole deal would require a vote from the city.
Yeah.
Can I
Okay.
raise that possibility, please, with if we were to find 30 or 40 or $50 million that can't be paid by the in-town CRA, the only place they probably can go is to go for general, that might cause a referendum for that 30 or 40 million.
I raised that question, and I'm sure Alan has too. And the answer I got back is the money is so fungible. What they do is they then say, okay, we can't take it from the CRA. We're going to now take it from our sales tax. We get a certain percentage of the sales tax, and sales tax is also general revenue. And yes, we had been planning to spend that sales tax on Project X, but we're not going to spend it on Project X. We're going to spend it on this project, and they get around the problem of they can continue to pay it.
Until you come up with 30 or 40 million to find.
All right.
That's apparently 30 or 40 million in sales tax is fairly easy to come out of the sales tax portion.
Okay.
Okay, so Tom has one more quick question. I also want to point out before you start, Tom, that Robin has posted in the chat, if you guys want to have a look, an article dealing with the failure of the TIF system. So that might be worthwhile. And then I'm going to call this meeting, since we're 32 minutes past our appointed departure. We're like a plane that's late. And just so, Tom, did you have something else? You raised your hand again.
Well, I've got a little bit of money. I don't know how much it would cost, but we can run some ads on the internet. So when you search the stadium or political county commissioners by name, it would direct you to No Home Run and a story about wasting taxpayer money. It might have some pressure.
Okay.
It might.
Well, it's by Thursday. We need to turn somebody by Thursday, and that's scaring me that we're going to be able to do that.
Well, do we need to turn a county commissioner by Thursday? What you said earlier?
No, not as county commissioner, but we need to turn one of the 5 city council
Right. I
people.
think he's in the conversation, on the actual written conversation, he's saying ads targeting a county commissioner. So that would be maybe a twofold kind of thing that we could work on next, is putting some pressure on the commissioners. And then, as Dick suggested, and Robin suggested, go there en masse with a PowerPoint. Yep. One person is our speaker. If it's the 30th, I can go. And
I'll go.
If you give me a minute, I'd
Uh-huh.
like to talk at the open forum about gentrification and many of the broken promises that cities made. And then later, I'd like to talk public hearing about what we've talked about tonight. But the South Side is really rapidly gentrifying. And this stadium is part of it's giving permission for white people to move into a neighborhood where they weren't considered appropriate to live. And it's going to crowd out the tenants. And this has not been discussed. The whole project has been framed as something that benefits the South Side. So we have one Black commissioner on the county commission, and maybe targeting her her would, long shot here, but might get her to ask some questions and slow it down.
Hey, this is Ron. I've been on the listening, working on something else. But I wrote a letter to the city commissioners today and copied, I think, everybody on this call, maybe not. Yes, no?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Good letter, Ron.
Well, why don't we all write letters to them and echo the comments or write something else?
Yeah, I sent
Yes.
out a letter at 5:55. I sent to most of you the copy of the letter that I sent to the letter of editor, trying to move
No,
this.
No, I'm talking about to the county, the city council.
You're right. No, I
Yep.
think that's a wise idea and just put it in written format. If somebody would take just a quick moment and just state what is the Woodson Museum deal about from the Rays? From what I'm understanding from Sanders, the Rays are supposed to contribute 10 million, but they're giving Woodson 1 year to raise 20 million. Is that accurate?
That is not a definite number. I can speak to this because I posted about this. I think I got it right.
Thank you.
No worries. The Rays are contractually obligated to, by September of next year, be in agreement with the Woodson. The Woodson has to have commitment for the financial piece. They have to have a solid construction price, which means they're going to have drawings and a plan in place, which is a lot of money. And
Right.
do not have to have all the cash in hand, but they have to have half of it in hand. And I don't think that we know that that's $20 million because we have no clue what that museum's actually going to cost now. It's been,
Right.
up and down and around. And the part that burns me the most is they then have 15 more years to build it. 15 years. Yeah. And I don't see how Deborah Fink Sanders can stand behind this. And this is something, Mary, you don't know about me, but I'm very involved with the Woodson on a couple of levels. And I'm so frustrated and angry about this. I can barely speak
I
about it.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So I think that's a lame excuse on her part. And I do know from the relatively well-sourced rumor mill that circulates amongst us, that there is question, and I think this was in our public string, there is question about Deborah Fink Sanders being brought up on an ethics charge because her son received a scholarship from the Woodson. And I actually needed it explained to me to understand why this really is a bad ethical look, because I saw the other side of it, knowing that this young man went through the process like everybody else did before any of this started. Well, it was ongoing, but it wasn't, nothing had been, he got the scholarship before
On
Mayor,
his own, right?
before Mayor Welch became mayor.
I
So-
think the ethical charge would be more related to, because of that, she is giving her support for this deal to go through. Because it benefits.
Yes,
the museum.
yes, that's
Yeah,
right. Yes,
right.
that's absolutely right. That's
Okay,
it.
good.
We're on the same page. So anyway, okay, on that point, it's 7:40, you guys. Love you, but gotta go eat.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
So,
you.
Thank you, Leslie.
everybody. We'll be talking again soon.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.